The morning broke with a soft chorus of birdsong, a gentle overture to a scene of intimacy. A golden light filtered through Jaida's window, casting a warm glow across the room, illuminating Voyd as he slowly opened his eyes. Before him, wrapped around him once more in the cozy aftermath of sleep, was Jaida herself. His heart gave a distinct thud against his ribs. A familiar blush bloomed on his face, though the initial jolt of surprise quickly gave way to a quiet amusement. Jaida was still deep in slumber, her soft snores a muffled rhythm against the blue fabric of his shirt. Attempting a slow, measured escape, Voyd found his efforts thwarted. Jaida clutched him tighter, her right leg coiled around his left, her arm secured firmly around his waist like a devoted koala. She mumbled, a sleepy protest against his gentle attempts to dislodge her. Her grip, though softened by sleep, was surprisingly unyielding. A soft sigh escaped Voyd. His usual method of movement were clearly inadequate here. With deliberate contortions, he began to manipulate his form. One arm shortened, telescoping inwards, while the other elongated, reaching for the edge of the bed. His legs followed suit, stretching and compressing in turn. His waist then seemed to shift and narrow, while his head performed an unsettling 360-degree rotation, his neck appearing to tighten and loosen like a screw in its socket. Transforming into what could only be described as an oddly proportioned, waddling penguin-like form, Voyd rolled himself out from under the covers. Once free, his limbs snapped back into their normal dimensions. The sudden movement, however subtle, served its purpose. Jaida stirred, then fully awoke, slowly pushing herself upright. She rubbed her orange eyes, still heavy with sleep, and cocked her head at the sight of Voyd on the floor. "Oh, good morning?" she drawled, her voice thick with slumber. "Why are you on the floor?" Voyd offered her a simple, unamused gaze, though the expression was fleeting. "Good question," he replied, rising to his full height. "How are you feeling?" Jaida blinked. "To be honest, still not great, but definitely better in some regard," she admitted, swinging her legs out of the bed. "I doubt I'll be totally fine for a good while, Blue, but I'll manage. I always do." Voyd's brow furrowed, his head tilting in a gesture of somber understanding. He reached out, his hand gently brushing a stray lock of hair from Jaida's eyes once again. "You don't have to do that, you know," Jaida said, rubbing the back of her neck and looking away, a slight blush dusting her cheeks. Voyd merely shrugged, his blue eyes holding hers for a beat longer than strictly necessary. "But it hides your eyes." Jaida snorted, a small laugh escaping her. "Jeez, you really like them that much?" she teased, moving towards her closet. "Is it wrong to be honest?" Voyd countered, his spark-like form radiating a subtle warmth. No, not at all," Jaida returned, already pulling out an assortment of autumn-colored clothing. A soft, two-toned orange sweater with a wavy cream line, a brown skirt, deep purple leggings, under attire, a sunny yellow undershirt, and a cozy brown beanie. "I'm, gonna take a shower and get dressed, if you don't mind." Voyd shook his head. "Not at all." Jaida nodded, a small smile playing on her lips as she made her way to the bathroom. "I'll be done rather shortly. Feel free to do whatever in that time." With a final glance, she closed the door, leaving Voyd standing alone in the sunlit room. He stood there for a moment, taking in the serene morning light, drawing a deep, calming breath. The silence, however, was short-lived, for a sudden, digital voice pierced the quiet, startling him.
You like her, don't ya?
It was Jet. Voyd's eyebrow arched. I beg your finest pardon? He asked, deploying his helmet to speak more privately.
Come on, you like her!
Jet pressed, a hint of smugness in his modulated tone.
Every time you speak, your heart rate accelerates, your palms get sweaty, and your tone of voice changes. These are the key signs of attraction, my friend.
Voyd scoffed, a disbelieving sound. What? No. Jaida's just my friend. He walked over to his bag, beginning to pull out the clothes gifted to him the other day. He then eyed his mom's teddy bear, resting gently on the other bed. Why would I? He trailed off, now seeing Jet's projected, grinning smile, a digital expression of pure smugness. I'm serious. She's just my friend. Don't get it twisted. Voyd huffed, getting dressed, and then beginning to go down the stairs.
Whatever you say, champ.
Jet replied, the mask retracting, leaving Voyd to his thoughts, and his undeniable, albeit acknowledgeable, feelings. Meanwhile, nestled within the steamy confines of the bathroom, Jaida sat on the closed toilet lid, still in her sleepwear. The shower's water steam filled the air with warmth. Her phone was clutched in her hands, her fingers flying across the keypad as she caught up on a flurry of messages in her group chat with the girls. The night before had clearly been a dramatic one for them, judging by the outpouring of concern. You okay? Read one message. Jaida quickly typed out a reply, reassuring them that she was fine, adding that Voyd was able to help her through the episode. Voyd really seems to get you. Winona messaged, her tone thoughtful. I'm glad he was able to get that all sorted out. Yeah, he's a real sweetheart. Not many boys seem to act like that nowadays. Coco chimed in. Then Ellie's blunt message popped up, accompanied by a smug emoji. You like him, don't you? What? Jaida audibly exclaimed, typing the same word into her keypad. Coco immediately sent a shocked hand-to-mouth emoji, while Winona responded with a gif of a person rolling their eyes. What? No! I don't like him like that. He's just a really good friend. Jaida rapidly typed, her fingers rapidly stumbling over the words like and friend, appearing as garbled typos in her haste. Coco replied with a thinking emoji, followed by a shrug. Winona then sent another gif, this one of a woman saying a drawn-out, sure. Ellie, ever direct, responded in text. Girl, we checked in on you two after the whole God revelation crap. You were literally snuggling on his chest. Are you seriously telling us that you're not into that blue-eyed gumball? Jaida blushed, a furious heat rising in her cheeks. She scoffed, then typed with a resigned sigh. Okay, fine. Maybe I do. But it's too early to advance anything. I don't even think you would reciprocate those feelings. It's way too early, Jaida admitted in her message. Plus, I've never been able to keep a relationship, and we've got a serious mission at hand. Could we discuss this after we save the universe? She looked away from the screen, acutely embarrassed. Ellie's final message then popped up like a digital punchline. First, you'd fall in love with that skater kid that may have been a zombie, then that goth turtle painter who collects chewed bubblegum, and now an actual alien from a distant world. You really live up to your nickname, Freaky Woods. To this, both Coco and Winona replied simultaneously, each texting the words, Freaky Woods. Shut up, Jaida groaned aloud, tossing her phone onto the vanity. I never should have made that my username on Instaclam. She sighed, the weight of her friend's observations and her own undeniable feelings settling over her, before finally preparing to step into the shower, ready to face the day and perhaps her complicated heart. The rich, sweet scent of maple syrup, cut with the savory promise of sizzling bacon, drew Voyd downstairs once more. In the kitchen, a symphony of clanking pans and soft sizzles announced Cott's presence. He stood proudly over the stove, a bright pink sparkly apron declaring, "Kiss my bumper," stretched across his chest like a defiant banner. At the long, rough counter, nestled amidst the comforting chaos, Nock hunched over a snarled hunk of gleaming machinery. Wires snaked around his fingers like eager vines. A fine layer of soot dusted his cheeks. His eyes, usually sharp, were shadowed with the fatigue of yet another long night's work, but his focus on the intricate components remained unwavering. A gentle weight settled on Voyd's head, a large, fluffy hand ruffling his scalp. "Mornin', love." Jamie's voice, a soft purr, reached him from behind. He leaned back, tilting his head up to look at her. Jamie's eyes were a warm sapphire, matched by a soft smile playing on her lips. "Good morning," Voyd mumbled back, his voice still thick with sleep. Just then, Cott slid a plate laden with golden waffles onto the counter. "How you feeling, little hero?" he boomed, his voice a comforting rumble. "Hope you got some good shut-eye, both you and Jaida." Voyd settled onto a stool next to Jamie, the cool wood a pleasant contrast to the warmth of the room. He picked at the edge of a waffle, his appetite tentative. "Better, I guess," he admitted, the words tasting a bit like ashes. Cott then grabbed a can of whipped cream, spraying a generous cloud on each waffle before meticulously crowning them with a single, perfectly ripe strawberry. "Well, best you have an empty stomach, buddy, because my legendary strawberry pancakes have been served," he announced, pushing a plate towards each of them, even setting one aside for Jaida, who was still upstairs. Voyd quietly began to eat, the sweetness a balm against his still raw edges. Nock, without looking up from his work, finally spoke, his voice low. "How is she?" Voyd eyed him, a flicker of something unreadable in his gaze. "Better," Nock replied. "And how are you?" The only response Voyd gave was a shrug, leaving Nock nodding his head. The air hummed with a fragile peace for a moment, shattered abruptly by a sudden, jarring pop and a shimmering distortion of air near the doorway. Nock yelped, dropping his elaborate device with a clatter and clutching his chest as Jaida materialized in a blur of light and color. "Jesus! You gotta stop doing that!" Nock exclaimed, his voice a mix of genuine fright and exasperation. Jaida, unfazed by his dramatic reaction, bent to pick up the dropped machinery. "Sorry," she offered, her tone flat, as she handed it back. "It's just more efficient than walking." Sighing, Nock reached out, his soot-dusted fingers gently ruffling Jaida's hair. She leaned into the touch, a small, genuine smile gracing her lips. She then slipped onto a stool between Voyd and Jamie. "More efficient than walking down the stairs I put in myself?" Cott challenged, crossing his arms over his sparkly apron, a mock offended look on his face. Jamie rolled her eyes, a gesture worn smooth by years of sibling exasperation. "Oh, hush, Cott. If you could teleport, you'd be doing the same thing, you lanky wrench." A giggle escaped Jaida, and even Voyd chuckled. Cott threw his hands up in a mock surrender. "You don't know that!" "I'm your sister," Jamie retorted, her eyes twinkling. "I know more about you than I think any human should." As the bickering of the river's siblings escalated into a familiar, playful dance, Voyd and Jaida focused on their food. Voyd scarfed down his entire plate in what seemed like mere seconds. Jaida, by contrast, took delicate, almost bird-like nibbles, her portion barely diminishing. Taking notice of her hesitation, Voyd nudged her shoulder gently, then subtly gestured towards the front door, visible through the bisecting window. "You want to go for a walk?" he asked, his voice quiet. Jaida took another tiny nibble, then nodded. "Yeah," she said, before sliding her almost untouched plate over to him. "Do you want the rest of this?" Voyd contemplated the offer for a brief moment, then shrugged. Without another word, he took the plate, brought it to his mouth, and consumed the remaining waffles in one surprisingly large bite. Jaida, Nock, as well as Jamie and Cott, who paused their banter, looked, eyes wide with a mixture of surprise and mild disgust. Voyd, however, seemed utterly unfazed. "What?" he asked, a stray crumb clinging to the corner of his lip. Jaida merely shook her head, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "We'll be back in a bit, going for a walk," she announced to the room, sliding off her stool. Voyd followed, already halfway to the door. "Be careful! Love you," Nock called out, his voice laced with genuine affection, just as the door clicked softly shut behind them. A cold fall breeze blew between the two kids as they marched down the southern city side. They passed by many homes decorated for the Halloween season. Jack-o'-lanterns lined porches. Decorations adorn both home and business, giving a sense of spookiness. Jaida marched with her hands shoved deep into her pockets, kicking a rock that rolled with their stroll. "Are you sure you're going to be fine?" Voyd asked as he playfully nudged Jaida with his shoulder. "I don't know, Blue. I'm still just trying to wrap my head around it all," she replied, looking at him. "Is this what it's like, knowing that some a-hole caused you an eternity of hurt?" she questioned, her hair flickering blue for a moment. Voyd gently nodded. "I suppose," the spark replied as Jaida rubbed her shoulder. Upon taking note of Jaida's sudden resurgence of sadness, Voyd got an idea. "Hey, you want a race?" Jaida looked up. "What?" she asked as Voyd rounded to be in front of her. "You heard me. A race." Jaida tilted her head. "Come on, you know you want a rematch after I definitely beat you last time." Jaida huffed. "Voyd, I see what you're doing. It's not gonna work." Voyd's smile widened. "Oh, come on. Didn't you say feeling sad sucks and that exercise is a great way to distract the brain?" Voyd reminded the girl, making her crack a small smile. "Voyd," she repeated. "Come on. You know you want a rematch." Jaida sighed. "Okay, Blue Boy. For one, that was a tie last time. And second..." Suddenly, Jaida shoved Voyd and made a hard sprint, laughing out loud. "I'm totally gonna whoop ya!" Smirking, Voyd got back to his feet and chased after her. "Huh, no cheating with a warp this time, huh?" he called, his voice already carrying a playful edge. "No promises! The first one to reach the edge of the south wins!" Jaida called back over her shoulder, already gaining distance. Voyd recovered with effortless grace, a grin plastered across his face. He quickly closed the distance, his own slender frame an agile blur against the backdrop of the city. Like last time, they were now neck and neck, their synchronized footsteps a rapid tattoo against the pavement. They wove a dizzying path, a chaotic ballet of speed and agility. They hurtled over a misplaced tricycle left on the sidewalk, then swerved expertly to avoid a group of teenagers fumbling with their phones. A forgotten skateboard became a launch pad for Jaida, who cleared it with a grunt of effort, only for Voyd to match her, his landing light and precise. They maneuvered around a delivery cart slowly rumbling its way down the sidewalk, then darted between a couple admiring particularly elaborate haunted house displays. The cold fall air, once a chilly caress, now bit at their lungs, forcing ragged, burning breaths. Their hearts thudded in their chests, a frantic drumbeat urging them onwards. With each block they conquered, the city's decorations blurred into streaks of orange and black, the details lost in their focused dash. Voyd occasionally drew slightly ahead, only for Jaida to dig deep, her expression grimacing with effort and matching his pace. She bumped him playfully, an elbow on his ribs, trying to disrupt his rhythm, and he retaliated with a quick swish, forcing her to swerve. This wasn't just a race. It was more like a conversation, a release, each stride shaking off a little more of the weight Jaida had been carrying. The route veered sharply, turning down narrowed city blocks, where the early morning gloom still clung, then into a damp, echoing alleyway. Dumpsters became launching pads, their echoing footsteps momentarily amplified between the high brick walls. Jaida, with a surprising burst of energy, scaled a low chain-link fence with a nimble leap, her hands barely brushing the wire. Voyd, a mere shadow behind her, vaulting over with an almost impossibly light landing. They burst onto another street, the sound of their own heavy breathing filling the space between them, punctuated by their occasional breathless taunts. The urban landscape began to open up, the buildings thinning out as the sound of rushing water grew clearer. Fall leaves released from their branches by the morning wind, brushing past them like tiny, frantic messengers, seemingly trying to carry them forth. Every muscle screamed, but the finish line was in sight. The bridge spanning over the river that bisected the city of Aurora. They pushed harder, a primal roar building in their chests, a silent pact to leave nothing behind. In unison, their strides shortening, their bodies leaning into the final desperate push, they both came to a sliding stop. Their feet skid on the worn asphalt at the very edge of the river, just shy of the bridge's first entryway, once again ending the race in a tie. Jaida doubled over, her hands on her knees, gasping for the air, her chest heaving. I won! She wheezed, straining up to point a shaky finger at Voyd, who was equally breathless. Nah, I won. My foot was further ahead, he retorted, wiping a bead of sweat from his temple. Jaida shook her head. Nuh-uh! She retorted playfully, leaving them both to erupt in peals of laughter, the sound light and free in the crisp morning air. The exhaustion was profound, but so was the lightness in Jaida's chest. Voyd. Jaida finally managed, her voice softer now, the competitive spark replaced by genuine warmth. Thank you. The spark nodded, his eyes bright. Of course. Just then, a loud, undeniable growl echoed from Jaida's midsection, cutting through the lingering silence. She clutched her stomach, her cheeks flushing. Looks like someone is regretting having not eaten breakfast, Voyd teased, pointing a finger at her belly. Oh, hush, Jaida replied, swatting playfully at his hand. She looked around, her gaze landing on a small, charming building nestled amongst the last of the city's side shops. A warm, inviting glow emanating from its windows, and a quaint sign above the door painted the swirling script. It read, Sarvi Sweets. The scent of cinnamon and something delightfully yeasty drifted on the breeze. I guess we can stop in there and get something, Jaida said, her eyes lighting up with a new kind of hunger. It looks interesting. Voyd and Jaida now found themselves nestled within the unexpected comfort of the unknown bakery. The air inside was a gentle hug, thick with the intoxicating scent of cinnamon, melting chocolate, and warm, yeasty bread. It was a space small and intimate, yet vast in its coziness, less a bustling urban eatery and more of a woodland cabin diner. Rich, dark wood paneling lined the walls, and the soft glow of amber orbs hanging from the ceiling cast dancing shadows, creating an atmosphere that made Voyd's lips curl into a genuine smile. "Alright, kiddos, here's your Super Cookie Sundae Milkshake Supreme." A booming, cheerful voice cut through the hum of the kitchen, followed by the clatter of a large tray landing on their small, wobbly table. On it was a large ice cream mixed milkshake, looking absolutely delicious. Standing over them was a woodland human, a magnificent cream-feathered owl woman, her imposing height and broad shoulders softened by a chef's coat generously smeared by glistening icing. Her bright orange eyes sparkled with care, and her massive wing-like arms flapped wildly as she spoke. One detail stood out. Where her right leg should have been, a gleaming prosthetic talon gleamed under the warm light. From the kitchen's archway, a large green bullhorn human emerged, his frame equally imposing, if rounder. He possessed squinted eyes, framed by a massive bushy beard and wild hot orange hair, all tucked haphazardly under a baker's hat. He too wore a baker's attire, though his seemed more worn, dusted with flour and smudges of unidentifiable sweetness. On his left horn, a simple, sturdy wedding ring glinted, a perfect match to a similar band on the owl woman's finger. Jaida's eyes, wide and glossy with hunger, fixed on the colossal shake before her, a mountain of ice cream, cookies, and whipped cream. She tore her gaze away, turning to the owl woman. "Wow, this looks great! Are you Sarvi?" The owl woman nodded, a flourish of creamy feathers ruffling slightly. "Yup, but you can call me Sarv. The big man back there is my husband, Tucker." "Sup?" Tucker's deep voice rumbled from the kitchen, a friendly greeting. "Nice to meet you. My name's Jaida, and this is Voyd." Jaida introduced, already plunging a straw into her dessert. "Are you guys new in town? I don't remember seeing this place before." She then asked, sucking the treat down. "Yes, me and Tucker just moved here from Afoya," Sarv explained, her voice surprisingly soft despite her size. "We wanted to come to Aurora to settle down, make a small business for ourselves. Believe me, Sugar, when you fight and also fall in love in the army, you tend to have some weird life desires in the aftermath." A soft chuckle escaped her, carrying the scent of something sweet and nostalgic. "You guys were soldiers?" Voyd asked, a flicker of something unreadable passing through his eyes. His voice was laced with a genuine curiosity that made Sarv pause. "Yes, we were, young man. We were in service for a good few years," she confirmed, her gaze hardening slightly before softening again. "Next thing you know, my leg gets blown off and he's partially blinded by mustard gas. Thankfully, we lived, and now we're just trying to have some peace and fun. Sorry if I'm rambling. I wouldn't expect you to understand, Sugar." Voyd gave a soft huff, a strained, almost imperceptible laugh that didn't quite reach his eyes. He quickly averted his gaze, looking out the window where the vibrant tapestry of city life roared on by. Yeah, I wouldn't." The words were a bitter iron lie on his tongue, a truth he swallowed deep down, far from probing eyes. "Well, thank you for your service, Miss Sarv, as well as you, Mr. Tucker," Jaida interjected, her voice earnest. "Hope Aurora treats you both well." Sarv bowed her head gracefully. "Thank you, dear. Enjoy your dessert." With a final warm smile, the owl woman turned and rustled back into the kitchen, her presence lingering like the bakery's inviting warmth. What a nice lady, Jaida murmured, happily sipping at her super cookie sundae through the straw, a contented sigh escaping her. Voyd, however, remained captivated by the shifting panorama outside the window, his expression distant. The constant flow of people, vehicles, and the cacophony of urban sounds seemed to both soothe and agitate him. "Something on your mind?" Jaida asked, her attention momentarily diverted from her sugary treat. Voyd shrugged, a subtle tremor running through his shoulders. "Nothing, just taking it in, I guess." Jaida raised an eyebrow, a hint of confusion in her gaze. "Taking what in?" Voyd finally looked back at her, his eyes carrying a weariness that was far too deep for someone his age. "The normalcy of it all, I guess. I'm still not really used to just living normally, you know?" Jaida's head bobbed gently, a silent understanding passing between them. "I understand. When all this is over with, not if, when, I think you'll fit right into our little life we have here." Her smile was soft, genuine, and full of hope. Voyd's eyebrow curled upwards as he snapped his head back to her. "What do you mean?" Jaida's smile widened, a playful glint in her eyes. "What? You weren't thinking this was a temporary thing, right? You're totally gonna stay with us, Blue." Her tone was light, almost teasing, but underneath lay a profound sincerity. Voyd's gaze drifted, pondering Jaida's unexpected words. "What? I thought you guys were only having me as a guest for the time being. You're saying I can stay?" The question was fragile, barely a whisper, laced with a disbelief that felt almost painful. Jaida nodded empathetically. Yeah? Blue, you may be Mr. Avenge the Fallen over there, but you're just a kid like me. I know Nog may be a bit intimidating, but I can tell that he's more than happy to keep you around." Her eyes sparkled, and she began to gesture with her free hand, emphasizing her points. "My friends really like you. Like, you scared off Francine and her friends. No one's ever stood up for us until you came along." Her voice swelled with admiration. "You can, have a normal life again. We can hang out all the time. You can go to our school here." Jaida paused, wrinkling her nose. "I mean, I'm iffy on my own school life, but maybe I'll tune back in if..." She rambled on, lost in the bright possibilities she was painting, while Voyd's mouth had fallen slightly open, his disbelief palpable. "Look, the point is that we're happy that you're here." Jaida's voice softened, her cheeks flushing ever so slightly as she gently stroked a lock of hair behind her ear. "I'm happy that you're here. You're kind, funny, and really cool. You're the first person to ever treat me with such..." She stalled, searching for the right word. "Such compassion. I care about you, Voyd. A lot." Voyd took a shallow breath, his own cheeks flushing a deep, unmistakable shade of blue. You'd actually allow me to stay?" He caught his breath again, the words catching in his throat. "Everywhere I've gone, I've only been met with fear, confusion, and many other unpleasant things. I never thought..." He looked up, his eyes glassy. "Sorry, this just doesn't feel real, is all." Tears, warm and stinging, gently welled within the corners of Voyd's eyes. He did his best to quell the overwhelming rush of emotions, not quite sobbing, but definitely not holding himself together well. "I'm not used to this much kindness. Maybe in my dreams, but those aren't real." Jaida, with a tenderness that surprised even herself, gently reached out, resting her right hand on Voyd's left. Their eyes locked, and for a fleeting electric moment, a short, almost imperceptible purple surge passed between them, a silent resonance of shared connection. "Well," Jaida said, her voice soft but firm, "best get used to it, because this isn't a dream." For a long, suspended few seconds, the two looked at each other, the quiet hum of the bakery a backdrop to the rapid thumping of their hearts. A shared sense of compassion blooming between them. Hope, fragile yet potent, hung in the air. However, before another word could be uttered, 3 sharp, distinct knocks came from the window beside their table, making them both jump and turn. Outside, watching them with an openly amused face, was Ellie, her grin wide and infectious. Beside her, Coco was holding up her phone, clearly in the act of taking a photo, while Winona stood with her head in her palm, mouthing the words, "Sorry," towards the two holding hands, though a distinct smirk played on her lips. Ellie's laugh rang out, a joyful, uninhibited sound. Voyd, despite the lingering emotion, couldn't help but smile and give a small, sheepish wave. "Hi, guys," he greeted. "Hey, you two," Coco chirped, still snapping photos. Jaida, on the other hand, let out a deep groan, her face flushing an orange crimson with embarrassment, and quickly shielded her face away from the grinning friends. "You guys gotta stop showing up without warning," Jaida said, her voice a mix of exasperation. She strode down the sidewalk, hands shoved deep into the pockets of her sweater, a familiar furrow in her brow. Behind her, Voyd stumbled slightly, flinching dramatically as a single, defiant crimson leaf detached from an overhead branch and landed squarely on his head. "And shouldn't you guys be in school?" she added, swatting the leaf away. Winona, already several paces ahead, paused only long enough to glance back, her pen scratching furiously across the pages of her journal she clutched in one hand. "It's teacher conference day. We had the rest of the week off." Her tone was matter-of-fact, almost clinical, as she resumed her hurried note-taking on whatever it was she was focused upon. "Yeah, you would have known that if you were, there," Coco chimed in, a smirk playing on her lips. Beside her, Ellie tapped a hefty wooden bat she inexplicably carried along the pavement, a rhythmic thwack thwack thwack, accompanying their steps. Jaida just rolled her eyes in response. The friend group continued their journey, crossing the massive bridge. Upon it, construction workers in hard hats moved like ants on the road, tending to the scarred concrete and twisted rebar, the lingering aftermath of Voyd's furious battle with the monochrome. Voyd cast a quick glance at the repairs, a flicker of something unreadable in his bright blue eyes, before looking away. Soon enough, they were within the northern district, leaving the echoes of the conflict behind, making their way towards a large community center, hoping for an easy day ahead. The world seemed to explode with light and sound. Giant billboard screens, each shifting rectangles of vibrant advertisements, pulsed with energy, bathing the bustling environment in an artificial glow. Cars honked a lively, incessant symphony as they streamed past. Pedestrians, a river of humanity, rushed by, disappearing into and re-emerging from the glittering storefronts. Street performers, bathed in the glow of the morning city shine, played instruments with glee, their melodies weaving into the urban hum, while dancers spun and leaped, captivating small crowds. This place is massive, Voyd breathed, his head swiveling, trying to take it all in. "That's Aurora for you, Blueberry," Coco said, a mischievous grin stretching across her face. Just lots of big crap and tons of noise. The group stood in what felt like the very heart of the district, an open plaza surrounded by artificial marvels and architectural wonders, simply absorbing the spectacle. So, you guys got any ideas on what to do? Jaida asked, her eyes darting between the flashing screens and the surging crowd. I don't know. This is just what happens when you walk and talk. You end up in random places. Ellie replied, shrugging. The group began the drift, sidestepping and weaving through the throngs of people, taking in the wondrous sights. Voyd, still distracted by a particularly mesmerizing holographic display, veered slightly. In a moment of clumsy distraction, he stumbled, his shoulder bumping hard into someone. "Oh! Sorry, I didn't..." Voyd began to speak, turning quickly to offer an apology, but his words caught in his throat. The person he'd collided with turned as well. A short frame, clad in a sleek blue dress, pink skin, perfectly applied lipstick, and a cascade of vibrant red hair artfully styled to conceal her eyes. They stared at one another for a hard few seconds before speaking. "Oh, great, it's you. They both said in unison, a perfectly synchronized groan of mutual disdain. The sound made Voyd's friends, as well as Francine's only friend with her, Toonie, turn to face the confrontation. A collective, audible groan rippled through Ellie, Coco, and Jaida. Winona, meanwhile, merely huffed and pointedly looked away, as if the very sight of Francine was offensive. Toonie, however, just looked nervous, his tail twitching erratically behind him. Hey guys. Win-Win, Ellie, Coco, Jaida, and..." Toonie listed, his gaze landing hesitantly on Voyd. "Voyd," the Spark replied, noting once more how utterly different Toonie was from Francine, a quiet, gentle counterpoint to her sharp edges. "Gotcha," the wolf answered back, attempting a small, reassuring smile. Francine, however, cut him off with a dramatic groan. Don't talk to them, Toonie. The last thing I need today is to be in the same vicinity as these trash heaps and the runt of a new friend." She grunted, then turned away with a dismissive flick of her red hair, her posture radiating a queen bee sass. "Francine, can you not?" Toonie asked, his hand resting tentatively on her shoulder, a silent plea in his voice. Winona had been simmering, and Francine's words finally broke through her carefully constructed wall. She stepped forwards, placing herself squarely in front of Voyd, her jaw tight. "Seriously, what is your problem? Why do you always resort to name-calling and downplaying?" Her voice was low and dangerous. "He's not a runt. He's actually a sweetheart unlike you." Winona glared, her eyes narrowed, daring Francine to flinch, to show any sign of weakness. Francine scoffed, a brittle, dismissive sound. "Oh, please. You know that I'm a sweetheart too, especially when years ago you were." Winona cut her off, her voice rising now, drawing curious glances from passerbys. "Now you're just a queen bee that puts everyone beneath you." Francine scrunched her face, a flicker of something unreadable crossing her features. "Well, I wouldn't describe it like that," she mumbled. "It's exactly like that," Winona ranted, her voice now a shout echoing in the bustling plaza. "Just because you're the top dog in our school doesn't mean you have the right to just freely dick around and make people feel less about themselves to boost your ego. At least these trash bags actually care about me, because if you truly did, you wouldn't have become a pain in my heart from the start." A small crowd began to gather, drawn by the raw emotion radiating from Winona. She fixed her gaze on the heart locket around Francine's neck, and a fresh wave of disgust washed over her face. She scowled, her voice dropping to a low, venomous growl. "And yet you have the audacity to wear that stupid anniversary gift. Either give it back to me or throw it in the river." Francine clutched the necklace hard, her knuckles white against her pink skin. She glared back at Winona, a cold sweat beading out her forehead, her poised image finally cracking. Voyd, sensing the shift in the air, tilted his head, looking at Jaida, his voice a low whisper. Wait, were they? Jaida nodded, her gaze fixed on the unfolding drama. Yeah, but that was a long time ago. She replied, her voice barely audible above the rising hum of the crowd. Everyone else remained silent, the gravity of the implied history settling over them. What? No, it looks too good on me to discard. Francine boasted, but the stutter in her voice betrayed her. Oh, for bees' sake, you can't even bring yourself to say what's actually on your mind nowadays. Winona barked, her patience reaching its absolute limit. Her hand shot out, palm open. Newsflash, sweetheart! That necklace was given to someone that I used to know. Someone who I haven't recognized in years. Her gaze was piercing, filled with a deep, abiding hurt. Give it. The word hung in the air, an ultimatum that created a vast, suffocating tension, holding everyone in its grip. However, before anything major could break, something shattered the moment. Literally. Without warning, one of the massive public screens convulsed. A searing yellow zap erupted from its core, followed by the sickening shatter of 1,000 glass shards. The brilliant pixelated display splintered into a cascading rain of razor-sharp debris. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd below. Heads whipped around in unison to pinpoint the source of the sudden, violent rupture. As the glassy sharpnel began its descent, Voyd moved with lightning precision. His arm shot out, a blur of motion, snagging Winona by her shirt collar and yanked her back. She then took Toonie and Francine by their arms, yanking them clear of the falling shards. Everyone yelped, a chorus of surprised shouts as the glass rained down with a bitter clatter, forcing pedestrians to scramble backwards in shock. What the hell? Francine shrieked, her voice thin with disbelief, just as another massive screen above them flickered erratically, its image glitched, bleeding vibrant hues of a distorted mess. Then short-circuited with an angry crackle before erupting into a surge of yellow electricity, exploding apart with a concussive force. Again and again, the screens across the area blew apart in rapid succession, the air filled with ozone and the scent of burning circuitry. Simultaneously, personal devices across the area went dead, phones lost data, their screens turning to black mirrors, while sleek electric cars halted mid-glide, their silent engines replaced by the sudden blare of horns and the uproar of panicked shouts. Chaos erupted, a wave of panic spreading like wildfire as people ran for perceived safety. Beezus! What's going on? Coco bellowed, her voice straining above the growing din. Amidst the pandemonium, Voyd and Jaida stood firm, their eyes scanning the escalating destruction. Suddenly, a subtle tremor ran through Voyd's horns, a small vibration that sent a prickle down his spine. They pulsed, a soft, ethereal blue, for only a fleeting moment before fading. Ugh, what the hell's going on with your horns, you freak? Francine demanded, her voice laced with a mixture of fear and revulsion, taking a small, weary step back from Voyd. But the spark paid her no mind. His eyes widened slightly as an unsettling sensation crept across his skin. Then everyone heard it. A faint, insidious static, like radio interference tapped inside their skulls, began to permeate the air, growing louder, more pervasive. People rubbed their heads, shaking them in agitation, trying to dislodge the irritating sound. Ugh, what is that? Ellie grumbled, smacking the side of her head with an open palm. Winona groaned, wincing and pressing both of her hands to her ears, her face contorting in discomfort. Oh no, Voyd huffed, the words grim. Oh no? What do you mean by oh no? Toonie questioned, his voice shrill with anxiety, as the strange phenomenon reached its crescendo. From every sputtering light fixture, every sparking power cable, every dying electronic device in the vicinity, surges of brilliant yellow electricity arose like tendrils of pure energy, coiling and shooting together within a collected center in the very air above them. Many ran, their screams echoing off the glass and steel architecture. Others, transfixed by the terrifying spectacle, simply turned to stare. Voyd's group, paralyzed by a mixture of horror and morbid curiosity, watched as a being began to manifest. A glitch. It was still large, its form shimmering with raw energy, but short in comparison to many of the other monstrous entities they had encountered. Its entire body was an eye-straining yellow, so vibrant it seemed to burn the retina. It possessed a flowing, shattered dress-like lower body, impossibly lanky arms that ended in sharpened, crystalline points, and a perfectly pyramid-shaped head that seemed to absorb all light around it. As its form solidified, a single malevolent eye formed out of the pyramid's surface, a shimmering, predatory red stare that glared down with chilling intensity upon Voyd, and then, with equal measure, upon Jaida. "Oh my god, it's another one of those things!" Toonie shouted, his finger trembling as he pointed, his entire body shaking as he and Francine took a panicked step backwards. "That's a new one?" Jaida mumbled, her voice strained, a faint hot glow beginning to emanate from her hair. Is that the polychrome type? The diamondback type? Coco began to ask, confusion warring with fear on her face. Before she could finish, a small, gravelly voice cut in.
"No, that's Solidius, one of Lois's two firstborns."
It was Jet. Francine and Toonie whipped their heads around, searching for the source of the disembodied voice. Who said that? Francine demanded, her eyes darting wildly. The others, however, ignored her, their gazes locked, fixed with a mixture of anger and defiance upon the newly manifested glitch. "Little Spock, child of the Iron Maiden, I have come on behalf of my master to give you an offer." Solidius's voice was a chilling, static-laced hum that seemed to vibrate directly inside their skulls, bypassing their ears. Voyd took a single, defiant step forwards, his fist clenching, knuckles even whiter than white, as he glared up at the female glitch being. Jaida moved to stand resolutely beside him, her own expression equally as infuriated, her hair now sparking with visible energy. "My people have made a pact, a promise to the cosmic wraiths. Surrender your crusade and give us the Chosen One, and this planet shall be spared in our new universe. Resist and face the consequences." The threat hung in the air, heavy and inescapable, yet barely anyone around them were paying attention. Most of the inhabitants had still been fleeing, screaming and running, their panicked flight leaving only the small group of kids staring up at the terrifying alien entity. "You... what?" Voyd asked, his voice low, taking another step forwards, as Jaida did her best to keep her composure. No, you can't have her! Jaida belongs to no one!" The Spark shouted, his voice rising, resonating with a righteous fury as he pointed a finger at Solidius. "Get off this planet, and leave these people alone!" Voyd boasted, his eyes beginning to burn with an inner vibrant blue, the light reflecting off the pyramid head of the glitch. For a moment, Solidius merely stared at Voyd, her red eye unblinking, utterly unamused by his defiance. Then, she spoke again, her voice losing its static hum, a much more direct, much more threatening tone. "Then scream alongside them." With a blinding flash of crackling energy, Solidius raised her crystalline hands, the air around them warping, and from her outstretched palms, she sent forth a concentrated flurry of burning electricity down upon Voyd. The Spark, despite his earlier bravery, didn't even have time to react. He was hit head-on, a lemon-colored aura of pain erupting around him as he was sent flying backwards with a tremendous force. The group alongside him screamed, a mix of terror and dismay, scrambling out of the way with yelps and shouts. Jaida, her own power flaring, instinctively reached out, calling his name in a desperate cry. Voyd! The spark crashed through the front window of a large mail van with a resounding shatter of glass and screech of tortured metal, landing hard in the back confines of the back. Oh my god, he's dead! Toonie boasted, his voice a strangled gasp, as he instinctively pulled Francine closer, shielding her. Come now, child. It is your destiny, is it not? So Lydia said, turning her attention to Jaida, her linking arm extending, reaching for her. But suddenly, an object launched back out into the open air from the shattered window of the mail van. A glowing blue Nova Room. It struck Lydia's head on, delivering a surprising jolt of energy. The glitch grunted in pain, a sharp alien sound, and snapped her pyramid head upwards, her red eye narrowing. The others, their attention now reverted back to the van, watched in stunned silence. Suddenly, the van's roof was blown off from within, torn away by a powerful horn pulse, as Voyd leaped out and landed with a defiant thud on the vehicle's hood. He glared at the glitch ahead, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He then activated his mask with a sharp metallic clank, the blue visor snapping into place, concealing his bruised face. And then, to everyone's utter shock, he once again summoned his Nova Blade. He didn't have his full armor. He was still just in his street clothes, but Voyd didn't care. He had to stop this. Wait a minute! Francine shouted in disbelief, her finger pointing, eyes wide with dawning realization. Wait, Voyd's the... Toonie shouted, his voice trailing off, unable to complete the sentence. The truth, too shocking to articulate. But before he could finish, the spark sent a surge of his energy to his feet, a blue glow emanating from his sneakers. He leapt forth, a desperate, determined blur, and tackled the glitch head-on, slamming into her with all his might. Get out of here! He called back to his friends, plunging his humming blue blade into Solidius' shoulder with a sickening thump, and crashing her onto the crumpled hood of a nearby abandoned vehicle. Just like your mother. Solidius snarled, her voice a furious, grating static, as she and Voyd began to engage in combat. Hard slicing slashes of her crystalline claws mixed with the broad sweeping arcs of Voyd's swinging blue blade. Sound of the impact, sizzling energy and grunts of effort filled the air. Go! Get somewhere safe! Jaida exclaimed, her voice firm as she summoned her cloak, the dark fabric shimmering into existence around her body. She then turned sharply to Toonie and Francine, both of whom were now suddenly shell-shocked by the unexpected revelation of Jaida's hidden powers and identity. What? Francine shrieked, her jaw agape, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and utter confusion, while Toonie remained silent, frozen in shock at this spectacle unfolding before them. Tell anyone who we are and I will find you. Jaida growled, her voice low and laced with a cold, clear threat directed squarely at the red-headed girl. Then, pulling her hood up and over her head, she plunged into the fight, moving to help Voyd. What? Francine huffed, still sputtering, before Winona, her own fear momentarily forgotten, grabbed her by the arm. Come on! She boasted, her voice surprisingly steady as she tugged Francine along, and they all ran, stumbling for cover amidst the crumbling ruins of the area. They all got down and watched. One moment, Jaida was nowhere. The next, she materialized in a shimmer of crackling energy, her massive, cosmic hammer already swinging. It struck Solidius with a bone-jarring crack, wrenching her off Voyd and sending her hurtling sideways to the cityscape. Electricity? Seriously? Jaida huffed, her voice a low growl, as she settled beside Voyd. Both stood, their gazes locked on the monstrous form of Solidius, who already righted herself mid-air. You're telling me, Voyd grunted back, adjusting the grip on his blade. Solidius then shot back at them, fingers splayed, unleashing torrents of raw lightning. Jaida, with a flicker of cosmic energy, dissolved and reappeared a dozen feet to her left, narrowly avoiding a searing blast. Voyd, meanwhile, executed a fluid backflip, gaining some distance. As he landed, already spinning, he shot his arms out, his limbs stretching impossibly, coiling around a distant half-collapsed screen. With a mighty heave, he vaulted over the debris, landing with a soft thud on the shattered remains of what had once been a sky-high walkway. Solidius zipped across the air, hovering menacingly directly in front of him.
You truly believe that you can stop us?
She hissed, a surge of power zapping the spot where Voyd had been just moments before. He lunged, a blur of energy, his blade slicing through the empty air as Solidius flickered away. In the nick of time, Jaida re-emerged mid-air with a warp. She snagged Voyd by the arm, and with another flash of warp speed, brought them both crashing back to ground level, landing in a spray of dust.
You truly think you'll be able to reach my master?
Solidius roared.
You're just a child who will fall like those that came before you.
Solidius snarled again in reply, her voice distorted by the static of her power. Voyd scowled back, a flash of pure anger in his eyes. He hurled a glowing Nova Rune that streaked through the air and exploded against Solidius' eye with a concussive thwack.
We'll see about that!
Jaida retorted, her hands already lifting, drawing in vast amounts of cosmic energy until a large, shimmering ball of orange power coalesced between her palms.
Voyd! Batter up!
She shouted. Better... what? Voyd asked, momentarily bewildered. Jaida simply gestured with a sweeping, mock-batting motion towards the sword. From behind the rubble, a frantic voice cut through the din.
Face and ball, Blue! Face and ball!
Ellie screamed, only to be abruptly yanked back down by Coco. Taking the cue, Jaida tossed the heavy orb of energy high into the air. Voyd instantly understood. He reversed his blade, gripping it by the hilt, and swung its flat broadside like a bat. The moment spark essence met cosmic energy, the ball flared with an intense, blinding purple, shocking both Jaida and Voyd. Whoa! The girl gasped, shielding her eyes. The supercharged orb, now burning with amplified power, rocketed forwards, striking Solidius dead center. She shrieked a sound of pure agony, as the force of the impact sent her careening backwards, smashing her into the largest still flickering display screen with a defying crunch of tearing metal and glass. She slumped down amidst the cascade of sparks and dangling wires, momentarily stunned.
Yes!
Voyd shouted, pumping a fist, watching her slump.
Yeah!
Wait, Jaida said, her initial triumph fading as she watched Solidius. The glitch, prone against the shimmering exposed cables of the ruined screen, slowly began to stir her, her fingers twitching. A faint hum started to resonate from her. Oh, that was bad. That's really bad. Voyd's eyes widened as he caught on. Oh, Matira, give us strength, he muttered, watching in growing horror as Solidius, instead of simply being dazed, began to absorb the very electric currents that fed the massive screen. Her form pulsed, growing brighter, the low hum deepening into a thunderous roar. Then, without warning, she erupted. A massive, concentrated surge of pure power bursting from her central eye, a blinding, searing beam that struck both Voyd and Jaida down, blasting them backwards, slamming them to the ground with bone-jarring force.
Guys!
Winona cried, her voice tearing with fear. Instinctively, she started to run forwards before Francine's sturdy arm shot out, yanking her back with surprising strength.
What are you doing, you idiot?
Winona growled, trying to shake free.
Saving you?
Francine retorted, straining to hold her. The air crackled around them. Just as Francine spoke, Solidius zapped down, then gripped the two fallen heroes by their throats, her electric touch searing their skin. With a terrifying snarl, she blasted off into the city, dragging them with her, slamming their struggling forms against buildings as she flew, a terrifying, high-speed ballet of raw power and desperate resistance. No! No, 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 no! Coco wailed, her hands flying to her mouth, as she and the others now scrambled out of their hiding spot in unison. Oh god! Oh my god! Toonie yelled, clutching his head, his tail flopping uncontrollably. What the hell are we gonna do? We have to do something! Ellie yelled, her voice bordering on a shriek, her baseball bat clattering dangerously against the ground. I'm thinking! Winona shouted back, her eyes scanning the chaos of the distant mid-air struggle. Francine, meanwhile, was pacing, practically tearing at her hair. Now hang on just a gosh darn second! Francine suddenly burst out, grabbing her head with both hands. Jaida's that cloak-wearing freak that's been running around the city? That's her? Are you kidding me? And that... whoever his name is, that's the knight? You're friends with... Coco, without warning, cut off Francine. She shoved her hard, sending her stumbling in the Toonie. Will you shut up for once? She hissed, making Francine flinch back, momentarily silenced. Okay, yes! Winona murmured, nodding slowly, a plan beginning to escalate in her mind. Oh yeah, the Nona switch has been flipped, baby! She cheered. Okay, that pyramid head clearly runs on electricity, right? She stared at Solidius, now a distant, zapping menace tossing Jaida and Voyd around like ragdolls. Voyd and Jaida don't seem to have electricity powers. So, what if we find a way to somehow overcharge her? Winona announced, her voice rising with a spark of triumph. Coco leapt forwards, her brow furrowed in thought. Like, overcharging a battery and making it blow up? She asked, her eyes widening. Winona snapped her fingers. Exactly! I'm not sure where we would find a place to pull that off. Ellie, her gaze fixed on the ravaged street, suddenly pointed. What about the city's power grid? What if we somehow get that thing there and overcharge her? She watched the duo from afar, now mere specks, getting tossed around like toys by sizzling electricity, fighting back once again, but not well. Oh man, they're getting their asses whooped, Ellie muttered. If Voyd and Jaida can somehow get her stuck in the electrical system, we can use the controls to make her go boom, Coco added, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Yes, exactly, but how are we gonna get to the power grid? Winona asked, her eyes darting between the distant battle and the ruined streets. I can drive, Toonie suddenly blurted out, startling everyone. I got my license last week. I'm parked right over there. The wolf, surprisingly, pulled out a set of keys, which jingled as he pressed a button, unlocking the grimy doors of an old, pea-green minivan parked a short distance away. It's my mom's car, but... Before he could finish, everyone except Francine began to push him towards it. Good, let's go! Winona urged, desperation overriding her. But Francine dug in her heels. No way, Toonie! We aren't involved with this! Let's go! She protested, pulling back. Toonie scowled, a stubborn set to his muzzle. I don't care! They need help! He stalled, and his eyes hardened. I don't care what you think of them, Francine. The Phantom saved my baby sister a while back. I need to return the favor. Francine scoffed, throwing her hands up. Fine! I'm getting out of here by myself then. She turned to leave, but Coco's voice stopped her. I don't think you can do that. Francine turned back, a sneer on her face. What? Why? She demanded. But then, she and everyone else took notice. From the lingering electricity left behind by Solidius, a tear formed in the air, a shimmering rip in reality. From it, a polychrome emerged, its form shifting through an impossible spectrum of colors. Car! Get in the car! Winona screamed, her voice cracking with pure terror, as she and the others scrambled inside with a panicked flurry of limbs. Toonie practically dove into the driver's seat, Winona tumbling to the passenger side. Ellie squeezed into the right back seat. Francine was shoved unceremoniously into the middle, and Coco piled in on the left, smashing the redhead between her and the baseball player. Toonie, drive! Ellie said, twisting around to peer over her shoulder and out the back window, watching the polychrome grow closer, its shifting form like a nightmare made real. "Crap! Oh, crap!" Toonie stammered, his paws fumbling with the keys, his fur bristling with fear. "Toonie, please drive!" Ellie called out again, desperation mounting as the creature loomed. The wolf finally got the keys into the ignition, his paws shaking. "I'm trying!" Toonie yelled, twisting the key, and the old minivan's engine coughed to life with a sputtering roar. The polychrome was right behind them, its hands reaching. "Toonie, drive!" Ellie shrieked with horror as Toonie at last slammed the pedal to the metal, throwing the car into reverse. Within an instant, the lumbering polychrome was bowled over, its head crushed with a sickening splat under the minivan's worn tires, making everyone lurch violently from the inside. "Oh my god, you killed it! Oh my god!" Francine wailed, her voice high-pitched with disgust as thick, vicious rainbow-colored blood splattered across the back window. "Oh my god!" Winona cried, her voice white with shock. "Oh, my mom's gonna be so pissed!" Toonie whimpered, his eyes wide. "Just drive, you mangy mutt!" Ellie barked, snapping him out of his daze. Toonie, still trembling, awkwardly swerved the minivan down the street, accelerating wildly towards the distant chaotic battle. The city skyline blurred into a dizzying streak of concrete and glass, as Voyd and Jaida were both violently flung from one skyscraper rooftop to the next. The air crackled around them, thick with the scent of ozone and the high-pitched shriek of Solidius, as she manifested and dematerialized across their path. Each impact sent jarring tremors through their bones. As Jaida absorbed another bone-jarring landing, skidding across the gravel-strewn rooftop, a sharp trill cut through the din of the battle. Winona's ringtone erupted from Jaida's pocket. Jaida's hand instinctively shot downwards, her fingers closing around the cold metal and cracked screen of her cell. "Hello?" she managed, her voice tight with exertion as she watched Voyd go toe-to-toe with Solidius, dodging a crackling whip of raw electricity. "Jaida, we have a plan." Winona's voice was clear and urgent. "That thing is made up of electricity, it would seem, right?" Jaida's eyes, narrowed against the glare reflecting off the glitch's constantly shifting form, flickered towards Voyd. "Yeah?" she replied, ready for another evasive warp. "You and Voyd lead her to the power grid at the edge of the city. Get her lodged in the system and we'll overcharge her. It should implode her from the inside out." Jaida's gaze snapped away from the immediate fight sweeping across the sprawling cityscape. There on the horizon, silhouetted against the hazy early morning sun, rose the massive skeletal structure of the city's primary power grid, a tangled web of colossal pylons and humming conduits. It was dangerously far, but still within reach. A grim, determined nod settled on her face. "That's a good idea! See you there!" She put the phone away, just as Voyd landed hard beside her, a shuddering impact that sent dust scattering. He pushed himself up, his eyes visible even through the visor, fixed on Solidius, who was recovering with a low, grating groan. "Power grid?" he rasped, already anticipating. Jaida merely nodded, a fierce glint in her eyes. "Yeah. Want a race?" She challenged, her gaze flicking between the massive structure and the glitch, now beginning to fully coalesce, buzzing with renewed malevolence. Voyd's lips quirked into a smirk beneath his mask. "Final round. This one determines the winner." He extended a fist, and Jaida met it with her own, a solid thump of camaraderie and shared purpose. Then, without another word, they spun on their heels, launching themselves from the rooftop, a blur of motion and raw ability across the city. Solidius, predictably oblivious to their true intentions, shrieked a distorted cry of rage and gave desperate chase. Neck and neck, Voyd and Jaida exploited every inch of their abilities. Jaida warped and ran, her body a rhythmic flicker and dash across rooftops, covering incredible distances with each phase. Voyd used his spark essence to blast ahead, elongated his limbs, stretching them like rubber bands to swing and pull himself across the city, his form a streak of brilliant blue against the sky. All the while, Solidius was a terrifyingly close third. a crystal of buzzing electricity and crackling light. She zapped in front of Voyd in a blinding flash, trying to shoot him down with a bolt of pure energy, but he dodged and weaved, a blue bullet soaring over the bustling streets. Far below, Toonie drove his mom's vehicle, swerving wildly to avoid stalled pedestrians and flailing debris.
You are nothing!
Solidius shrieked, an ear-splitting burst of static. But then, chillingly, another voice, frail and trembling, seemed to echo from her cry.
I'm scared.
The unexpected sound made both Voyd and Jaida glance at each other, confusion etched on their faces, even as they kept their breakneck pace.
You can't run forever!
Solidius bellowed, her form rippling with fury.
Why are you chasing me?
The other voice, smaller, sounded from within Solidius, closer now, as they neared the massive power grid.
You won't win this, boy!
Solidius roared.
Please, I didn't mean to hurt them.
The echoed voice was truly a plea now, tinged with a heart-wrenching fear.
What is that?
Voyd demanded, his voice strained as they finally reached the power grid, a monolithic construction of steel girders, humming wires, and millions of deadly volts.
I win!
Jaida cried out, a triumphant yell that was half gasp, half declaration. With a final burst of speed, she tackled Solidius, her form flickering. It was the same maneuver she had used on the robbers earlier that week, her body a living conduit for teleportation. But this time, instead of pulling Solidius through a solid object, Jaida phased her halfway through the colossal machine components of the largest electrical wall in the facility. At that precise moment, Toonie, with a defiant crunch of metal, drove their vehicle through the flimsy chain-link fence of the power plant, skidding to a dramatic halt outside the facility's main building. Workers, initially staring in shock at the chaos, now dissolved in the panic, scattering at the abnormal energy levels beginning to spike. Jaida landed hard, her breath ragged as Voyd skidded to a halt beside her. Solidius was awkwardly lodged in the massive electrical device, her form flickering, half there, half gone, as if she had been clipped between dimensions, between components. She instantly began to break away, her form quivering with desperate energy, but Voyd was faster. Using his Nova runes, he began to project shimmering, arcane symbols onto the humming metal, locking her in place, holding the glitch in agonizing stasis. Bursting from the car, the rest of the group, Coco, Ellie, Winona, sprinted towards the building labeled Control Center, with Francine and Toonie trailing awkwardly behind.
Hey, what's going on?
A startled bullhorn worker, still dazed, called out, stars literally spinning in his eyes.
Give us your keycard! We need to save the world!
Ellie shrieked, already swinging her bat. With a sharp clack, she thwacked the worker squarely on the head, knocking him out cold before he could even process the demand.
Beezus, Ellie!
Coco gasped, eyes wide, as Winona, Francine, and Toonie looked on in stunned silence. He'll be fine, Ellie declared, already snatching a keycard from around his unconscious neck. She jammed it into the reader beside the heavy metal door. A soft click confirmed their entry. Let's go! She shouted, already tugging the door open. Everyone surged inside, Toonie and Francine following nervously, but resolutely behind.
Come on, guys, switch it on!
Voyd roared, his voice straining with effort as he continued to hurl shimmering runes at the struggling glitch. Jaida, a whirl of motion, warped in tight circles, her body creating a dynamic lasso of energy, further entangling Solidius within the power grid. The group of kids burst into the main control deck, a vast, complex room that had clearly been evacuated in a hurry. Screens flickered with chaotic energy readings, and warning lights flashing red.
Where are the controls?
Coco shouted, her voice echoing in the deserted space.
There!
Toonie yelled, pointing to a massive, industrial-grade power dial. Without wasting a second, Winona sprinted over, her face a mask of desperate hope.
Please work!
She pleaded, her hand seizing the cold metal dial. Please work, please work, please work, please work! She grunted, pulling and twisting with all her might, but it didn't budge. It was jammed solid.
Guys!
Voyd groaned from outside. He was visibly struggling, the Nova runes flickering around Solidius' threatening to fail. "It's jammed!" Winona cried back, her face contorted with frustration. Ellie and Coco rushed to her side, adding their combined strength, but the dial remained stubbornly immobile. From outside the reinforced window, they could see the terrifying event unfolding. Solidius was almost free, her form solidifying, her power level surging. Looking around the control room with a cold sweat trickling down her back, Francine couldn't help but let out a groan of exasperation. "Ugh! It needs a key, you morons!" She snapped, reaching out and snatching Ellie's bat from her hand. "Move out of the way!" She barked, unceremoniously shoving the girls aside. "What are you—" Winona started, but yelped as Francine, with surprising strength and precision, smashed the bat down onto the center dial, once, then twice. A loud, sickening crack erupted, signaling that whatever latch mechanism had been locking the dial shattered. Francine threw the bat aside, grabbed the now unlocked dial, and with a grunt of effort, turned it to the maximum setting. Suddenly, the city of Aurora began to flicker wildly, as if suffering a massive stroke. Both sides of the city short-circuited, plunging in the darkness, only to surge back to a blinding light and a dizzying strobe. Outside, Solidius began to twitch, sporadically shaking, her yellow body crackling with light. Her screams turned primal, a guttural sound of pure agony as she desperately tried to escape the impossible forces binding her. But it was already too late.
No! No! Lotus! Oh God, help me!
She shrieked, her voice distorted, fragmented.
No! No! Please! Please!
Someone help me.
Then, with a blinding, powerful explosion of pure energy, Solidius ignited. She didn't just explode, she disintegrated into a magnificent, horrifying yellow flare of energy. A supernova of light that blew Voyd and Jaida back far across the power plant grounds. Their bodies slammed down by the sheer force. The city, from this cataclysmic burst, surged with unprecedented power, the glitch's essence of pure electricity amplifying the energy tenfold. Solidius was gone, replaced only by a shower of bright, crackling sparkles that danced in the air that slowly faded. Voyd and Jaida, dazed and winded, slowly pushed themselves up, breathing heavily. Inside the building, a cacophony of cheers erupted from the control room. The idea, against all odds, had worked. Francine merely sighed and stepped back, shaking her head. Huh. Well then, I guess getting stuck in that wall years ago really did pay off in some regard. Jaida said, wiping a streak of grime from her brow, a weary smile touching her lips. I guess so. And it looks like we have a true winner. Voyd said, inclining his head in a gesture of respect towards Jaida. Yeah! God, my ribs hurt. She groaned, even as a wave of profound relief washed over them all, allowing them to finally take in the quiet. So, the universe is made up of realms. There's this evil cube guy trying to kill everything. And you two are the only ones trying to stop him? Toonie asked, his wolf ears twitching in disbelief, as he and the others sat outside Sarby Sweets. The air was thick with the rich scent of warm dough and melted sugar, a stark contrast to the unfolding cosmic revelations. They were sat on the curb of the road, a half-empty box of assorted donuts in the center of them. Voyd nodded slowly, a faint sapphire glow emanating from his fingertips as he gently touched Jaida's temple. A small scratch, a jagged red line a moment ago, shimmered and faded, leaving behind unblemished skin. That's the gist, he replied, his voice a low, quiet rumble in the afternoon sun. Francine, with a half-eaten strawberry donut, clutched in a white-knuckled hand, shook her head so violently her fiery red hair whipped around her face. I don't believe this. I don't believe any of this, she cried, scrambling to her feet, her voice rising to a near shriek, drawing the attention of a startled pigeon pecking at the crumbs nearby. You're the Phantom, and you're that... No, you're a freaking alien! she boasted, pointing an accusing finger, her face flushing with a mixture of anger and genuine shock. Jaida merely raised one perfectly sculpted brow, taking a slow, deliberate bite out of a shimmering glazed donut. I prefer to be called the Cosmic Angel, sweetheart. Her tone was flat, utterly devoid of amusement, the quiet steel beneath her ethereal beauty evident. Francine scoffed, her whole body vibrating with indignation. You can't make it up. You can't make any of it up. Why didn't you ever fight back if you were this powerful? You just stand there like a wimp every time I poke fun at you, she demanded, her voice cracking. Jaida finally lowered her donut, a sliver of glaze clinging to her lower lip. She looked Francine dead in the eye, and the air around them seemed to thicken. Because unlike you, I don't use my power to hurt people. The words were soft, but they landed with the weight of a meteor. The redhead's gaze darted around the curb. Winona, Ellie, and Coco were all glaring at her, their expressions ranging from cold disapproval to outright fed up. Even Toonie, usually so accommodating, had lowered his head, his ears flattened in disappointment. Francine's hand instinctively went to her heart locket, nestled at her throat, a nervous habit. She clutched it, her knuckles white, and let out a frustrated growl. You know what? I'm done. I'm going home. I am not getting any more involved with whatever nightmare circus you have going on, she declared, her voice cracking with fury and something uncomfortably close to fear. Winona, her arms crossed over her chest, gruffed. Fine, go then. Give us one less thing to worry about. Francine spun on her heel, her shoes scraping against the pavement, and stalked off down the street, her angry strides eating up the distance. If you tell anyone about their little secret, I'm gonna beat your ass with my baseball bat, Ellie called out, her eye narrowed. Francine didn't even turn around. She merely flipped Ellie off with a backhand gesture as she rounded a corner, disappearing from view into the city. A collective sigh of relief seemed to ripple through the remaining group. Are you okay? Voyd asked, his touch light as he gently wiped the vestiges of blood from Jaida's now-healed wound. Better. Thanks, she replied, a genuine soft smile gracing her lips, mirroring his own. Toonie slowly took a bite from a chocolate donut, its richness a small comfort. He chewed thoughtfully, then tilted his head, his ears perking up. Well, this was an odd day. It's only noon. He looked up at the others. Again, I apologize about her. She's, yeah. The wolf finished the rest of his donut in 2 quick gulps. Why the heck do you even hang out with her, Toonie? Ellie asked, munching on a powdered donut, a cloud of white dust around her mouth. You always look so uncomfortable when you're around her and the others. Toonie shrugged, his shoulders hunching slightly. I've just known Francine for a long time. Hell, before they even went by Francine. We're close. I just want to try and keep her on a good path, you know? I'm trying. He looked to Winona, who gently shook her head, a sympathetic sigh escaping her lips before she looked away, giving him space. She is nice. Believe me, she is. It's just, she's a bit lost, I guess. Toonie reasoned, then rested his chin on his hands, looking down at the remaining donuts like they had held all the answers. Dude, if you want, you could hang out with us, Ellie offered, her voice softer now, her gaze genuine. Yeah, I can guarantee you that we're a lot more fun than whatever it is you go through with her, Coco added, nudging him lightly. I wouldn't mind either. Francine can really drain you. You've always been a sweetheart, Toonster. I hate seeing you so tired. Winona added, looking back at him, her expression warm and inviting. Voyd and Jaida met his gaze, their smiles quiet but encouraging, a silent invitation to a new kind of belonging. A grateful warmth spread through Toonie's chest. I mean, you guys are pretty cool. Especially these two. He said, pointing at Voyd and Jaida, a genuine smile finally breaking through his earlier discomfort. Jaida, you saved my sister from falling rubble a while back. I just want to take the opportunity to thank you. The cosmic angel nodded, a faint light in her eyes. Just being a guardian angel. Voyd's gaze, which had been fixed on Toonie, suddenly sharpened, pulling away from the personal moment. His eyes scanned the distant horizon, a new stern intensity settling on his features. The brief respite was over. The glitches and wraiths working together. Guess the Red Death is getting desperate. He said, pushing himself up to his feet. If he is getting desperate, then we gotta get a move on sooner rather than later. As one, the other stood, the last crumbs of donuts forgotten. The easy camaraderie faded, replaced by a shared, grim determination. The weight of the mission, the cosmic stake settled over them like a shroud. Let's get back to Nox. I'm ready to go, Jaida stated, her voice clear and resolved. To go where? Toonie asked, the shift in the atmosphere startling him. He looked from Jaida's resolute face to Voyd's unyielding stare. Voyd turned, his gaze sweeping over Toonie, then lifted to the vast, cloudless sky above, as if seeing beyond the blue expanse. The Dream Realm.